Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, home to the Asian Oprah, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Podchaser, JioSun, Rumble, Tiki Live, and more. I am your hashtag positively opinionated host here to splatter more hope and happiness on you because I am on a Happy 88 mission. 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. And so I have shows and topics and guests to that end. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. Layla Ali, the 7-belt undefeated boxing champion, daughter of Muhammad Ali, will be my guest tomorrow. Just a little hint. So you'll have to come. She'll be live in studio, her second time with me. And I also collect co-hosts. If you have noticed in this last year, I have found that it is actually fun to banter back and forth with people in the studio instead of just talking to myself, even though people say that I'm pretty good at that, and I appreciate it. But I have a past guest who was held her own and has a great background that I thought I would bring her to you on a more regular basis. Her name is Yarona Boster, and she is, let me do the formal introduction, because since this is her very first time as co-host on the show. She knows loss well from a very personal level to the professional arena, and she's developed wisdom beyond her ears as a result. So she's hashtag ageless. With 15 years in the world of early childhood, Yarona became an accomplished TEDx speaker, certified speaker coach, certified life coach, parenting coach, loss transformational informed coach, infertility advocate, mentor, and coach. She takes her heart-centered approach in her coaching style, and if you are willing to trust the process and stay open to finding the best version of you that you want to be, Yarona will help you get that done. Please welcome, for the first time as my co-host on Tuesdays, Yarona Boster. And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Wonderful, and excited to have you too. And you remember how I start my shows with having breakfast. So now, all y'all, I see your eyeballs. Welcome to the studio. If you are driving your car, you're on AM, FM, but don't go to the stream. But if you're at your computer or on your phone, please do go to my YouTube channel or Facebook or LinkedIn and play along with us for breakfast. 8 specific gratitudes, and you can put it on the chat and add to ours. So there's 8 specific gratitudes in the at the top of the button, and then 8 specific appreciations for ourselves at the bottom. And when you start your day this way, I guarantee you will sandwich your day in more hope and happiness. So I'll let you start. This is your initiation. What are you grateful for? Specific, no friends and family, as specific as you can.
I am so grateful that the leftovers are done. I'm done with leftovers.
I am grateful that I lost the 2 pounds that I put on with turkey thighs on my thighs.
Well, I'm grateful that although I didn't lose the 2 pounds, I do have intention to do so.
I'm grateful that I get to live in Southern California.
Oh, I am grateful that we will soon be having snow because one of my favorite things to do is play in the snow with my son.
I'm grateful that my daughters were here for the holiday and made it home safe to San Francisco for the drive.
I am grateful that I get quiet time to myself almost every day. So it's very helpful.
Very good. And I'm grateful that I have been on the air for 552 consecutive weeks and still going strong. So anybody who said it's not going to work, show about hope and happiness is not going to last more than a year is wrong. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm going to give myself a little applause. Great. And now we go to the bottom of the button, which is I want you to exercise your muscle of approving of yourself so that you're not as inclined to go looking for love in all the wrong places. So what do you like about yourself?
I like that I enjoy cooking when I have the time. And that even when I burn myself, which I did the other day, I can still cook.
Now, are you a good cook?
Well, I've been told so. Yes, yes. I just made some chicken pot pies from scratch the other day. So, and apparently everybody likes them.
Yeah. Good. So I want you to turn that into not everybody likes them, but I know I'm a good cook. So this is thank you for illustrating exactly what this exercise is for. It's to own the good parts of you. We're so self-critical. It is a bad habit, not a bad habit, a not so useful habit we have. So I want us to exercise the ability to pat our own back, give ourselves hugs, see what's good about ourselves. So definitely that is the point of this exercise. So I am a good cook.
I am a good cook.
Perfect. I appreciate that. I am a good cook. Going to piggyback. I made my ancient Chinese secret fried rice and my daughters loved it. In fact, my older one ate all the tray and my younger one called not very happy with their sister of the take home. And by the way, you can actually see that recipe online. I was on CBS Recipe Rehab with my daughters some years back. So just fried rice, Pay Family, CBS Recipe Rehab, just as an aside.
I'm looking that one up for sure.
All right. And what do you appreciate?
I appreciate that I actually have pretty great skin, so it keeps me looking really young. I'm a lot older than I look.
Great one. That's a great one. I appreciate that I am of the culture that we naturally look 10 to 15 years younger than our actual age. But then the downside is we go directly to 100 when we hit that certain age. It's like young and then popo, which is grandma with the cane. All right, one more.
I appreciate that I really enjoy drawing and painting when I have the time.
Beautiful. I appreciate that I am funny and that I own the funny. My husband told me on a very regular basis that I was not funny, even if I came back and said, I had 5,000 people laughing when I was on stage. And he would say, they're just trying to make you feel good. So the best thing about my divorce, happily divorced, is owning my funny. So there you go. All right. And there it is. Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and new co-host, Yarona Boster. And today's topic, as you've noticed, I've got my blue balls on, are holiday blues. Love, our wonderful series is called Loss, Love, and Living. And so I asked Yarona what she would like to talk about for her first co-hosted show. And she said,
loss in the holidays.
Yeah. So my version of that is holiday blues, because it certainly is One of the times where you might be feeling loss, even if it's 22 years ago that my dad went to the other side from lymphoma, and somehow the holidays always, not always, for many people, become a sad time. And so we're going to talk about that today. So I'm going to let you kick it off and sort of give us like the opening, what you would like this show to address.
Yeah, so I would love to be able to help people gain more awareness of where that feeling comes from and how they can help create a feeling balm to be able to get through this. Because it is one of the hardest times for a lot of people. And one of the reasons for that is because memories are not linear. And therefore, when a memory surfaces, which it often does in the time of the holidays, because the holidays are usually when we have some of our most memorable memories, it becomes a really hard thing to deal with those memories as they surface in the face of the ones we have lost. So how do we soothe that?
I love it. So y'all know I don't like people to be sad longer than absolutely necessary, only because most people, if they start feeling that downward motion, find it more difficult to come out of it. And I think that I have learned from my children, actually, Mom, just let me be sad. Just let me be not happy for a little bit, and then I can get through it. And it's not easy for me because I guess for me, I spent so many years sad and mad that I want to sort of balance my life out now. And I don't want to go there, but I think it's really important. And I love that you have certification in this and that you have experience in this. And, I love when people have had past pain and share it, because it's the impetus for them to do what they do and help others with that same pain. So why don't you give me that aspect of it? Because I introduced you with knowing pain and loss. So why don't you share
Sure.
your personal stuff around that?
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot of personal experience with loss. I mean, I grew up as the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, so that was a hard road to recognize. But a lot of the pieces of me chose to realize that in that difficult place, there were also some amazing people who, if not for complete strangers, I wouldn't be here today, because they chose to, of their own free will, help my father and his sister escape. And I'm here. And so when I was 16, I came to that realization. It hit me in a very profound way. And it was right in the midst of a lot of loss that I was struggling with, because my parents had divorced. My father moved back to Israel. That's where he was raised after he escaped. And there was a lot of struggles there, and it's not to say that struggles aren't real and valid. It's just that we don't get to choose what happens to us all the time, but we do get to choose how we respond to it. And I chose to look at it and say, okay, this happened to me, yes, and this happened to me, yes, and then I was a sexual assault survivor. Then my niece was born with a severe disability. Then my father got cancer. Lots and lots of loss. I mean, I could go on. I could probably write. Yes, I am writing a book, but I can write my book about it. My autobiography in the face of loss. But it was more important to me to figure out what I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be in that moment of woe was me, resentful of the pain and the trials and the tribulations and the struggles. And I recognized that it is one of the hardest things. But if you do allow those feelings in, give yourself a talisman of hope that you can pull yourself out to the other side. One of the things that I heard that I love is, broken crayons still color. So when you live your life, It's a beautiful one, right?
I'm writing that one down.
When you live your life and things break you, it doesn't mean you're done. It just means you have to figure out how to reconfigure your ability to draw and your ability to color. And what's that going to create for you? So a lot of the times with holidays, and this is what I was saying before, because memories aren't linear and they're very much, they become indelibly linked to certain times of the year, certain anniversaries and things of that nature. The holidays can often feel like the hardest time for many people because that is very distinctly when they have some of their most beautiful memories. And in the face of that is the people who are no longer here with us. Right. So I remember some amazing memories I had with my parents. One cutest thing, my father was a big talker. And one of the things that I thought was so adorable is my husband is not a very big talker, but he loved to listen to my father. So they had a beautiful balance. So there was one Thanksgiving that my husband and I decided to spend it just with my parents. And it was the four of us. And my mother and I were in the kitchen and we were cooking and we had watched the parades. And after the parades, now my father would usually turn to politics, but instead they were watching a dog show. And they were both commenting on it, and it was so cute. And then they stepped out and they decided to go for a walk. And my father, my husband told me later that my father told him all about the book he had written and all these wonderful things. And I could see the bond grow between them. I could actually see it happening in real time. And that memory stays with me. And rather than but I don't have my father here to make more of those memories. I don't have my mother here to make more of those memories. I choose to remember that beautiful moment of connection between my father and my husband that left a mark on my husband as he thought back on my father and as he brings up sometimes cute things that happened with my father and my mother. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful testament to their memories. So
yes, that's a great point and the perfect illustration to one of the tools that I suggest in my happiness coaching and my book, my 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are book that you've noticed or known of, and it's called Remembering Them Whole. So some of that sadness that just normally will come when you miss someone. Of course, you're going to miss them during the holidays. They're not there. And then our tendency is to remember them in the last minute, last month. I'll remember my father, hacking and just, coughing up a lung because he had lymphoma and it took them 8 months to 8 months to diagnose it. And then less than 6 months later, he was gone. And, that's an easy memory to bring up, and the regret and the sadness. And then I use my power of focus and I use my choice, which is the most powerful tool I have in life, to remember the other memories that you so beautifully bring up about what they were able to do. And I just love that. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering who's in my hot seat, it's actually my new co-host on Tuesdays. Her name is Yarona Boster, and she is a loss and parenting and infertility coach. And today we are talking about loss in the holidays. And if you are feeling sad about Yarona's lost her mom and her dad, and you've had miscarriages, at least one, I think we talked about last time.
3 miscarriages, 2 ectopic pregnancies, failed IVF. Yeah. And I lost my niece and nephew as well to disabilities.
All right. And then my dad and, can't forget our furry friends. Yeah. So it is a natural time. So don't beat yourself up for feeling that during the holidays. However, there is a way to remember them and balance out the memory with the fun stuff and with the tender stuff. And I'm really glad that you shared that story about your husband and your dad. Little shout out, because my dog my grand dog's son, my daughter's boyfriend's dog, is a Frenchie. And for the first time in dog show history, since you brought up dog show, did you know that a Frenchie won the blue ribbon? Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So we're gonna celebrate that. Just as an aside, when you said
I
that.
love that.
But when my dad was actually dying and we knew there was no cure, what I did was, you talked about writing. I actually wrote a book, and I use this with my coaching clients as well when they're grieving and they've never grieved for the people that they've lost. And they're really not lost, by the way. They're just on the other side. And you can access them. That's another show. We'll talk about that later. But I wrote a book for my father that I read for him with all the best memories that I had of him.
Yes,
So, and I read that
beautiful.
book to him every day, instead of going and saying, "Oh, how are you feeling? You know, what did the doctor say?" Instead of that, we didn't even talk about that. I wrote the book and would read him a chapter. Remember the time when when you walked into the kitchen and I was cooking, and he opened the lid and he looked in and he goes, "What is that ugly thing in the pot?" And I'll never forget that, because my father's not normally that funny. He was a nerd, chemical engineering professor, but that was truly one of the funniest moments that I remember.
You
So
know,
those
and
are the. Go ahead.
I have to tell you this because before I forget. So there is a book that people can get. It's called Conversations with My Father. There's one that's called Conversations with My Mother, Conversations with My Grandfather, My Grandmother. And these are books that actually help you, guide you with questions to ask them, so that you can have something with all of those memories and all the things about your parents or your grandparents or whoever it is. So if you're on the journey of losing somebody, and this is not a sudden impact loss, but you're in that journey, you can take that helpless feeling and put it into something that feels a little bit more like you've gained some measure of control by pulling in all of those memories, asking them these questions about, like, what was their favorite thing to do when they were growing up, when they were little, or what was their favorite color? What did they want to be when they were older? Like all of these wonderful things. And then it kind of journeys you along that, which is so helpful when you don't know what to do.
What a great idea. Those of you who are going home for the holidays and aren't really excited because you're going to be asked, "So have you met anyone?" or "What's going on with your job?" You can steer the conversation and you can turn it around and ask whoever is asking you those questions. I'm doing a project, a life project, and I'm collecting data on my family's history, and then ask them a question. Now, the bummer about what you just told me is my very first book was actually called Conversations with My Daughters, and I didn't know that that it had already existed, so I don't have to publish that anymore. But I was chronicling, I was chronicling the journey as a mom of two little girls. So we have someone here. This is a great question. Hi, what if your parent doesn't want to answer those questions? Good question, Em.
That is a really good question. I think for some parents, if they've had trauma in their past and they've had a difficult childhood, perhaps themselves, they don't necessarily want to talk about that. So a good thing to do is say, well, what's a part of your past or your life that you do want to talk about? And sometimes it doesn't happen for them until they reach adulthood. Like my mother didn't have a very happy childhood. And she did have a hard time. She did not want to talk about that stuff. So when I was losing my mom, she didn't want to do that. But she was willing to talk about when she was acting. She did a lot of community theater. She even did an off-Broadway show. She did a lot of stuff like that. And she loved to talk about that stuff because those were, and we would even pull out, like I still have it, a massive box full of her scripts for all the theater
Hmm.
work that she did, and also even music sheets. And so those are really good things to bring forward. At some point, people do have happiness in their life, right? So it's really just a matter of figuring out how to trigger people's happy memories. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a science behind this. So for every negative thought or emotion, and I don't like to call them negative because emotions are what they are, but for every down emotion, you need 3 up emotions to combat that. So
Really? I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah. So
Mm.
this is a part of the neuroscience of happy brainwaves and happiness and dopamine receptors. So when you are in this time and maybe you're going home to the holidays and things are going to be stressful because you're not getting along with your family, or you've got past trauma that you never resolved, or you're dealing with losing somebody, or you've lost somebody and you don't want to think about all of those things. The moment the negative or the painful memory comes in, try to combat that with thinking of 3 happy memories, 3 memories that make your heart feel warm. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can do that, then you can actually bring yourself, like I was talking about before, bring yourself out of that kind of like a memory talisman.
Mm-hmm. Great idea. My suggestion would be to start the ball rolling and say, my best, funniest memory of our life, my relationship with you, or you as a mom or dad, was when, and then I would give that example of that I just did in the kitchen with my dad, and then I would say, what's your funniest memory of us, and sort of guide that so that it's not so threatening or deep or anything that they may be reticent. So keeping it light. I love humor. I think humor is a gift of life. Laughter is my favorite sound in the world. And when I keep it light, then I'm also more likely to get a response from,
Yes.
who's coming there. And
Yes.
we've got, thanks. That's a great idea. So they have something to share. Thank you. Ask what they want to talk about so they have something to share without feeling forced to discuss things that are hard for them.
I
Absolutely.
love
Thank you
it.
I
Yeah.
love when people are interacting with us. I think it's the best kind of show. So thank you, Em, for doing that. All right. What else, Yarona, are some ideas for people who, have the holiday blues or sing in the holiday blues? Uh,
You can do a list. So I like to do little lists, and they can be mental lists or they can be written lists. But when you're thinking of something down, and you can write that down, and then on the other side, it's kind of like the pros cons list type of thing. But again, it sort of goes back to the recollection of, okay, this is bringing me down. What can bring me up? And that's when you start to, like, even your breakfast work with gratitude and appreciation, this is clearly bringing me down. I need to search for what can bring me up. Even if it starts like it feels a little bit tedious, you're like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know." Because sometimes the I don't know spiral pulls your brain into the I don't want to know. So we
mm,
need to be able to pull ourselves out of that.
mhm,
Instead of saying, I don't know, ask yourself, what do you need to know?
mm,
Well, I need to know that I'm right here, right now. I'm breathing, I'm standing, and sometimes it even goes to the most basic thing of life. I'm still breathing, I'm still standing, I've still got X, Y, and Z that works on my body. Okay, now start to think a little bit outward. Sort of like the cushion of good. As you start to think about yourself, then you start to think a little bit outward of, okay, what else is good around me? Hey, all my lights work. That's fantastic. I was able to pay the electricity bill this month. Because sometimes it's that hard for people, especially people who are struggling to make ends meet at the same time as they're dealing with loss and pain and trauma and all the things. But again, your crayon still colors. It's still
mhm,
here. You
mhm,
haven't thrown it in the garbage yet. So use it and
mhm,
create new pictures, even
mhm.
if you're a terrible artist.
Good point. Yeah, I use phrases like it's not always going to feel this way. Um, this too shall pass, and it's okay to grieve, and it's okay to feel sad. Um, the okayness and the ability to give yourself the space, I think, is so important, because when we don't do that, then we start doing that, looking for love in all the wrong places and trying to get other people to give permission for something that only you can give permission to yourself for. Now, there is a point where I do think that you have a choice at that point to say, okay, I feel sad. I felt sad. I've given myself a little time. And now, do I want to throw the baby out with the bathwater for the rest of this holiday? Because literally, you cannot get this time back. And I think that's the point where some people are so they start that momentum down, and like you said, it takes 3 emotions to sort of pick. By the time they get like 7 or 8, fear, anxiety, frustration, irritation, sadness, depression, then that 6 things times 3 is 18 positive emotions to try to shovel or throw yourself back
Pull
up
out,
there.
yeah.
That's a very difficult task. And so the ability to be aware and then to choose, okay, this time is never coming back. And then I love the replacement tool. So instead of complaining, you can be in gratitude. Instead of judging, you can compliment. So inserting something that is the opposite. So I would say, for those of you who want to play this holiday season, and I challenged people at Thanksgiving, instead of the normal, bring flowers to the hostess, give them a hug, they're slaving in the kitchen, you go sitting in front of the TV waiting for the food to be done. The food's done, you sit at the table, you suffer through somebody's grace, you eat the food, say that was delicious, go back to the game. That is not a happy 88 holiday. I would suggest and challenge everyone listening, now or later, to actually spend an extra minute in the kitchen, just standing there. You don't even have to say anything. Put your hand on their back. Just stand and let them feel the love and appreciation from you. If you can muster up a compliment that is different than what you normally say, that would be a bonus. And then this is for advanced people at the table. Before or after grace, say, or before or after dessert, say, I'd like to try something new. I was challenged on Dr. Marissa and Yarona Boster's show to ask everybody to go around the table and say, what am I grateful for this year? What do I appreciate about the person beside me? And it's a very cohesive exercise. I use it as an organizational psychologist when I do strategic planning retreats or any kind of team building, is for a moment, step outside of what you want and consider making someone's day. That's the tool. Make someone's day. Do a drive-by compliment. Do something different this holiday so that you not only feel better, whoever is there is going to feel amazing.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say to that, I'll add to that too, is that when we're feeling most helpless, helping others feels good. And it gives you a little bit of a semblance of control. So when you're feeling helpless to corral those painful memories or the difficulty that you're going through, lifting somebody else's spirit can feel like, oh, I can do something. I may not be able to do something for myself right now, but hey, I can do something for someone else. And that feels really good because then it actually brings your spirits up and it makes you feel a little bit lighter and helpful. And it's one of the hardest things for a lot of people, but it actually ends up being, once you just take that one step, it ends up being one of the easiest things to come to. Because a lot of times, if you're sitting around trying to think about what you're grateful for and all you can think about are the things you're not grateful for, it's hard to step away from yourself in that moment. So the way you can is to think about somebody else who's also down and how can you lift their spirit. Maybe you can't lift yours in that moment, but hey, I can make somebody else feel better. I love the drive-by compliment. That's really great.
Thank
That's
you.
kind of
Thank
imagine
you.
something like I'm driving through a drive-through to get food and I compliment the person on the way.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And thank you to Anspiration. What a great name. Or Inspiration 08, good number. Eight's a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homophone for good fortune. And y'all know how much I love the number 8. She says authentic gratitude. And that is exactly what we're talking about. And just to be a little tongue in cheek, even if you can't be authentic about it, just do it anyways, because it is a muscle. Gratitude is a muscle, and it will atrophy if you do not practice it. So that's why drive-bys take the, some people, oh, well, I don't want to get in trouble, because sometimes when I compliment people, they give me like a funny look or whatever. And that's why I came up with drive-by. You don't even look at the reaction. You just do it, gospel according to Nike, and then you go by. And I think if you are also looking for that perfect gift, I don't know anybody who isn't more appreciative of a heartfelt, authentic note in a card than that thing that they really didn't need. And you've spent 3 days agonizing over trying to find that perfect gift. The perfect gift is an expression of love. That's my opinion. But I know when my kids give me stuff, the ones that I treasure the most are the little poems and the little love letters that they do at Mother's Day and birthday, holidays, etc.
I love those. When I was a little kid, we were, with 2 working parents and us at school, we were often leaving notes on the kitchen table to each other. So
Oh,
yeah, and you know what's really adorable? Our mother kept all of them. So when we were going through cleaning out the house, we found all these notes like, did you feed the cats? Or don't forget to feed the cats, or like, I think we need more milk or more this or that, or like have a good day. Yarona, you spelled couch wrong. Things like that. I kid you not, my mom did that. So
that's so cute. That is very cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be real for a second again. If this is your first holiday with someone who has gone to the other side, it is. I wanted to bring this up because when Yarona was my guest, I really got. I had that light bulb moment when we were talking about things to say and things not to say. So I wanted to spend a little time on that. Oh, my Lord Almighty. Guess what? We didn't even take a commercial break. We're already at 8:44. Good number. Usually I take a break in the middle. So I'm not going to take a break, but I will do a station ID because I missed the one at halfway. If you've just tuned in and you are enjoying this beautiful healing conversation that we're having with lots of solution, which I always love to do on my show. It is her first co-host show with me, Yarona Boster. She is a certified coach in loss and infertility, parenting, and more. She is my new Tuesdays Loss, Love, and Living series. We've been talking about holiday blues and solutions to that here on my show called Take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa. And this is where
Yarona
you
Boster.
insert your, there you go. Here on the number one talk in the IE, KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind, on AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and of course my YouTube channel, where we have wonderful people that are participating in the show today. And Inspiration. And I am so delighted to have you. You can always, if you're just tuning in, get the first half of the show, first 3/4 of the show by going to my YouTube channel, free subscribing. And there you'll also get my red carpet playlist with some really fun interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones, The Temptations, Corey Feldman, who's been on my show, Layla Ali, who's coming on my show tomorrow, and Michael Bernard Beckwith was just on my Big Brother that a lot of people are giving me love about that interview, and some clips from the phenomenal last concert, 2000th concert with Elton John. So many things to enjoy on that YouTube channel. There is a new playlist now, Lost, Love, and Living with Yarona and Dr. Marissa. So that's where you are. Thank you again for participating. I have a new comment here. This is Anna. Oh, this is your, oh, yes. Anna was actually a guest. And if you missed that show, it was on Veterans Day, I believe, last year, or some semblance of that. But just look up Anna Ford and Dr. Marissa, a beautiful person. Thank you for that love you gave me on the post yesterday. I tried to like it, but somehow it wouldn't let me through. But I'm glad that you're here. All right. We are coming up for almost final words. Is there something that, oh, yes, we were going to talk about things not to say.
Yes.
If this is your first season missing someone, I always thought that saying, I'm sorry for your loss was okay, or actually what I would say, and now I won't because of what was uncovered in the show with you as a guest, is to say, you know, they're in heaven. You don't need to feel sad. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I would say, you know, I'm sorry for your loss. And I also know that they're in a better place, or that where they are is there's no more pain. And my intention was to try to make people feel better about where they were.
Yeah.
But I was told or shared with by Yarona that may not be the impact. So I'm all about, if you want a good impact or useful impact, make sure that the intent, if you're good intending, make sure you're also good impacting. And if you are good intending, but it's not necessarily the most useful impact, you might want to shift. So I've shifted thanks to what you said.
Yeah, asking people what they need in this time, you know, saying, you know, my heart hurts for you. You know, saying, you know, just saying, I don't have the words to bring here. I don't know what to say, but I see you're in pain and you're struggling, and that, you know, hurts me for you. And I want to help. How can I help? What would you need from me? Just asking them what they need. If they want to hear things about, you know, like sometimes people will say, like, I'm worried about, you know, I'm worried about them, and, you know, and they might need to hear like they're in a better place. They might need to hear that. But the truth is, it becomes a very, it becomes a very painfully underwhelming thing to say to people when you say things like that, because the truth is that their heart is cracked into bits and pieces, and that's not necessarily going to be the balm that they need. And the thing about grief, it's also not linear, and there's no start and there's no end to it. It's actually cyclical. So grief kind of comes in a rubber band wave. I like to think about it like a rubber band. When it first happens, your grief is really constricted. It's a tiny, tiny rubber band, and you can barely pull it without experiencing a lot of back pain. As time goes on, the grief does become, it's not that time heals all wounds, it's more that time provides distance from the fresh wounds. And so it creates a bit of a scarring situation there. And every once in a while, you accidentally hit that scar against a metaphorical wall, and all of a sudden you feel the ghost of that really intense pain that you originally felt. My father's been gone 11 years. My mom's been gone 7 years. My niece has been gone 13 years. My nephew only 2 years. And there are moments where the grief, even of, my niece or my father, it doesn't feel like it was that many years ago. It feels like it was just yesterday at times. And it's okay that it's not okay in that moment. It's just about what you do next that really matters for you as a human being in the growth process and in the living with loss. You need to experience and figure out what works for you to pull you out of that grief cycle and to pull you out of that fresh pain. So that's the thing about grief. It's not, and when you're living it, when you're in that moment of experiencing it, no words are going to help. I have a dear friend who is dying right now, and he is my age. He's 47. I'm willing to tell my age. And he's dying. And I love him. He's my brother. We grew up together. Our parents changed our diapers together. So I don't know a time with him not in my life. And there are moments where the other day I had to crawl into bed and I had to bawl my eyes out. And that's what I needed that night. I needed to just lay in bed and cry and let it out. But then I got up the following day and it felt like a cathartic weight was lifted a little bit off my shoulders. I'm still carrying the burden, but it doesn't feel as heavy. So we need those cathartic moments to get back to the reality of life and living and finding our way back to happiness in the midst of what we're going through.
Very
and
well
that
said.
is, it's one of the hardest things to do, though. I'm not going to make any kind of there's no perfect solution for this, and it works for everybody differently. But knowing that there are people out there who care about you, even complete strangers like myself and Dr. Marissa, who care about your pain and your struggles. And we just want to tell you, it's okay to not be okay right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for saying that. I concur. And I'm going through, my mom's now in palliative. So she's at 30. They have this scale that I didn't know about. You've heard of that scale? So she went from like a 40%. And I guess when you're at 10% is hospice. So they give you, I think 1 month to 6 months at 10%, and then 20% is 6 months to a year. 30% is Anyways, it's not long. So I am, my mom's had Parkinson's for 12 years. And so that's also been, the reality. But now that she is really, limited on time, on prognosis. So I was just there in September. So I go next month for the holidays with her, and I talk to her every single day. It is important for me to cry. I love crying because tears are the disinfectant that keep my heart soft. And I don't allow my coaching clients to apologize for crying. And I make a point of feeling sad when I feel sad, because it's so, for me, the model is emotions are like, what do they call those? Dumb waiters, they go like this. I was going to call lazy Susan, but that's another thing. But if you try to cut out sadness and pain in the bottom of your emotions, fear, sadness, anxiety, all those below sea level emotions, and you try to cut them out, what happens is you also cut out all the high emotions, exhilaration, bliss, wonder, love, peace, all of that. So you close down so that you're only walking around going, how are you? I'm okay. How are you? I'm okay. How are you? I'm okay. So in order to be able to feel those, I'm fabulous, I'm magnificent, I'm blessed and grateful, I have to be able to say, I am so sad that I know that, this probably is the last holiday I spend with my mom in person, because it's just looking that way. And that sadness, I'm so strong that sometimes I fight feeling it because I don't want to feel like I need help or I'm not strong or someone needs to comfort me. But the reality is I'm human. And that in spite of, y'all know I've been very open with the book. I talk about how to be happy, not because I'm a psychologist telling you how to be happy, but I had a tough time with her growing up. She was not that nice. When you're called fat, ugly, and clumsy, and that's tough, and other kinds of less than healthy practices. But I know in my life that I wouldn't change a thing because she really did do the best that she could do. And as a result of everything that I went through, I am able to help the 7 out of 10 people who've had similar childhood trauma to know that you can be happy even though people did not affirm you when you were young. That's my job. That's why I'm here. And so the critical, slippery slope and complicated emotions that I feel now that my mom is dying, it's a poignant time for me, and that I don't miss all of the mess.
Yes.
And the beauty of the lesson and the beauty of this time is a daily thing.
Yes.
And I'm
And
grateful that.
that is so beautiful. And the fact that you're able to find your gratitude in the face of all of that is really the most important piece. And I would say too, a lot of times we forget that palliative care isn't just about comfort, providing comfort, and free from pain in those last moments, but it's also giving them final experiences that they can experience. So when my mom was when we decided to utilize hospice, and when you do hospice in home, they're not there 24/7. You're their primary caregiver. But the social worker came and we talked about what my mom would maybe want to do, a little bucket list of things that she could possibly do. And even though she was in a wheelchair at this point because she was so weak, I managed to get her back on a horse, which was so
Wow.
great. And it was so because we utilized rehabilitation, equine therapy. Coming from the world that I came from with disabilities and developmental delays, I remembered, oh yeah, that's right. They have all the equipment and they can get her on a horse, because that was one of her favorite things to do as a kid. So
How cool.
if you have somebody who you're losing right now, talk to them about those things and think outside the box for things you can help them do. Because again, when you're feeling most helpless, to take away the inevitable, which is the losing of that person, try to find ways to help make it the best it can be.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That was Yarona Boster's final word here on her debut as my co-host on the series Loss, Love, and Living. I hope you've enjoyed this very heartfelt show. And if you have lost and this is a difficult holiday for you, I hope you've learned some tools and tips to help you feel better and at the same time embrace where you are. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, tomorrow is Layla Ali, undefeated 7-belt winning daughter of Muhammad Ali. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from her living room with Yarona Boster. Remember, it's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Now go and have the best day ever.